My name is Pamela Natamba. I am a partner with PWC, which is PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's a professional services firm that offers audit, tax, and other advisory services. My journey with Ethan started a while back. It's been about 5 years now. I met him at a time when I was looking for purpose, trying to define my goals, trying to find out exactly where I'm going with my career and life generally. Along the way, as we shared matters concerning my job, what do I do on a daily basis, we then identified an area of public speaking as one that would be of interest to me. I've been doing public speaking before I met Ethan. In my own way, you are invited to speak to clients, you have client meetings, you have client trainings, you have staff trainings, and for some reason you just don't get the feel of I'm doing it right. You're doing it, yes, because it's part of your job, but you can't quite assess yourself and understand if you're doing it right. So I meet Ethan. We identified this as one of the areas that is critical for my career based on what I had shared with him, and he decides we need to do something in that area. One of the things that Ethan did for me, which was really brilliant, was to record. He sent his team to one of the sessions that I was presenting at a mentorship class, and they came to record my presentation. And he then used that presentation to help me see how I was faring from a public speaking perspective, and we walked the journey together in terms of what are the things that you need to improve, what are the things that you're doing well. Having viewed myself and seeing what I was doing in the course of that presentation, I've learned, or so many lessons I've learned from Ethan. But some of the lessons that have been really, really critical for me are, one, if you're speaking to people, what is it that you want them to take away? What is it that you want them to feel after your speech? How do you want them to act after your presentation or your speech? And that for me has stuck since the time that I had that conversation with Ethan. I step back and I am able to prepare before every presentation. Previously, some presentations I never prepared. It's a day two and you quickly scribble stuff and then you're there for the presentation. But I learned to be deliberate, to find out who is my audience, who am I going to speak to, what is the age bracket, what, if it's business, what business are they in, what do I need to know about them, what do I need to tell them, and how do I want them to then act after my talk, my presentation. So that is one lesson that I learned from Ethan and that I have continued to apply and I have seen make a difference in my speech. The second thing that I learned from Ethan is the power of body language and the tone of your speech. And I got to understand that it's not what you're saying to the people that makes the biggest contribution to your speech, but it is how you present yourself, it is how you use your gestures, it is how you carry yourself, it is how you keep varying the tones in your voice to keep your audience captivated. So that I have continued to practice. I remember that time I was preparing for interviews to become an associate director in PWC, and we had that conversation, and wow, I got to that interview and I was so deliberate about certain things. I was deliberate about my body language, I was deliberate about my gestures, and I came out of that room feeling like I had done a brilliant job because I had used the skills that I had acquired from the coaching. And the other thing that I've learned, or that Ethan has taught me, is to speak with conviction. The one thing he kept saying is that for your audience to believe, for your audience to take the message that you're giving to them, they need to believe you. They need to see the conviction with which you're speaking. They need to actually relate with what you're saying and say, yeah, this person knows what they are talking about, and they actually believe in it. So I do my best to be very authentic, to talk from the heart, to talk with conviction, to be able to relate with the audience that I'm speaking to. The third thing is the power of stories. I struggled with that for a very long time. And I would start a presentation and I can't find a story to tell. or how to spice it up. And Ethan taught me that it is important to tell stories, and the story must be relevant to the audience that you're speaking to. So I have been very intentional in terms of thinking about what story can I tell as I speak to this audience. So I think about stories, I look through my life, and there's lots of stories I can tell. It's just that I wasn't deliberate about it before, but now, because I know it's important to do it, I go back before I start any presentation. I think through my life. I think about the stories that are relevant to the group that I'm going to talk to, and I share those stories. I've since taken on some mentorship programs, and I have found that the power of telling stories is actually fantastic. The mentees that I work with relate, like they feel they are walking the journey with you. They feel they know where you're coming from, and they want to walk that journey because you are simply being authentic, you're telling your story, you're sharing things that you have learned from your own personal experience. So that is something that I learned from Ethan as well. And the final point that I have learned is every time you give a presentation, every time you speak to a group of people, to an audience, you must call them to action. So there must be a call to action at the end of your presentation. What is it that you're asking these people to do from what you have presented? What are the key lessons they have drawn out, and how are they going to apply them to what they do on a daily basis, or to that specific topic of discussion? So I have learned to be, again, deliberate. And all through my coaching sessions with Ethan, including public speaking and all the other sessions that we have done, the one thing that he keeps emphasizing is you must be deliberate. You must be intentional. I've learned to learn life in a very intentional way. Nothing comes by chance. I plan it out, I put in the effort, I walk the talk. I am very deliberate, I am very intentional. Would I recommend Ethan? I would definitely recommend Ethan for public speaking. He has seen me walk from point A, to point X, because one, he asks me the relevant questions. Two, he is keen to get feedback in terms of how are you progressing, including the example I gave you of him recording a public speech that I had and giving me feedback about that. That has added a lot of value. So I would recommend him because he is intentional as well. He relates with his clients, and he makes sure that you're walking the journey together. It's not about him telling you what you need to do. It is you owning what you need to achieve. So it is definitely important. If your career involves speaking, clearly you need public speaking skills.